Hello, I've been running, and the name Michael Phillips popped into my head. Who is Michael Phillips?
Michael Phillips, a complicated individual, wearing many hats, always doing something new, always thinking of something to excite myself, push my limits, take me out of my comfort zone. Life has been a very interesting journey for me. I try to make a contribution to society. I try to have my time on this earth be worthwhile to myself, my family, and others. In the midst of that, where people may think I get so many things done, I am still battling with procrastination like so many other people. I'm still battling with trying to find out the correct sequence into doing things, always working things out in my head. So I don't want to give anybody the impression that, they may think that, he just has it all together. It's a constant debate with oneself as to what the next move should be and reconciling after mistakes and successes.
You're a singer, artist, and former national cyclist. How do you do all of that?
Cycling was a family indulgence, a family sport. My grandfather was the president of the Cycling Federation back in the days of Dr. Eric Williams, and he was able at that point in time to get a lot done for the sport at that point in time. So my father would have ridden for the national team, and so a couple of my other uncles would have raced as well. So my brother and my cousins, even my son now, would have won medals as a junior cyclist. So that gave me a lot of focus and foundation as well as strategies in terms of what I apply to everything else. My work ethic comes from how my training programs were structured. So I tried, that's what I know. So I try to adapt things like that. Art is another thing I was doing since a child because that was influenced by my mother. My mother is a very creative person. She's been a caterer for many years, and one of the first things she loved doing was making wedding cakes, drawing and sketching and coming up. She was my MacGyver before there was a MacGyver on television, as far as fitting things together. Art, ironically, helped support my cycling career. Art helped me revive the sport of cycling because when I was dying, I sold a painting to put on my first cycling event. And it has been very useful over the years to subsidize both cycling activities and charity. The Sunday morning program on Diego Martin, which I often see running by or running through, art would have been a significant contributor to that as well. Music, however, was very unexpected during COVID, during lockdowns, and a sequence of events through art again. A friend of mine was encouraging me to do time-lapse videos with my paintings and put them up. And that was a new thing that was happening on Instagram. Reluctantly, I did it. One thing led to another with my old QRC chat. Guys, they're challenging me to try something else, which was the music side of it. That sent me down a rabbit hole that I didn't realize that I had the ability to compose because I started off by writing songs. And fortunately for me, through another unexpected event that at that point in time I thought was not fortunate, I ended up living next to Robin Imamshaw. A few people I knew in the music fraternity, when they heard what I was writing, approached me as if I was wasting my life and I had musical talent to pursue. They were adamant because if I was just learning cover songs, I would not have dedicated the time to it as opposed to these compositions coming out of my head. Within a month of buying a guitar, I was playing and written 3 songs. After 3.5 months, I had my first live performance in Movie Town. So and each one of those things were kind of really nerve-wracking from never having anything to do, never sang in public, never hummed a tune in public, didn't even know music came in different keys. That's to tell you how limited my knowledge of music was. And I had people that explained these things to me during my recently passed away earlier this year. I wanted to learn to sing one song. And then Joey was one that said, but can you write? Because I thought I had a hearing problem. I didn't know music came in different keys. And he explained it to me. I was looking for karaoke. And I couldn't understand how could I sing Neil Diamond and I couldn't sing Journey because they had different vocal registers. But I couldn't hear it. My voice would adapt to the key subconsciously. Like one thing led to another, and now at 30-something songs, I just released my first single, getting a lot of positive traction playing on the radio because of the genre. I heard it when writing, which was country. more contemporary country. I've written a couple of traditional style calypsos, not soca. I've been enjoying figuring those things out. I can't yet do a reggae strum for whatever reason. I haven't, the timing with the guitar. I've been learning different things with different guitars, different sounds, nylon strings as opposed to steel string, and it's so much to learn that is a very interesting and enjoyable journey.
What would people remember about you as a national cyclist?
I'd won my national title for 9 consecutive years when I decided that at the 10th year, the sport was dying. And it didn't make sense in my mind trying to be the king of an anthill. That's in my, because sport was just contracting. And it was really interesting that you would have had a number of riders that would have been well at the same time the sport was dying. And having that situation now with the best crop of cyclists we've ever had, once events lack structure, funding, and support that it needs, the sport dies, regardless if you have a world record holder like we would have had with Nicholas Paul. My main contribution in the sport of cycling would have been the events I put on. I probably paid out more prize money than any other individual or federation over the same period of time. Come up with very creative concepts, having kings and queens carnival costumes at the savannah with thousands of people out there. I even put an 80-piece orchestra playing in the middle of the road at the savannah for the ceremony, which were things that, all right, Michelle went and did the opening for 2 Olympics. I figured, well, I can make up my own little thing here right on the savannah. So you have inspiration like that people in the past help you dream big. My contribution, other than that, the local races is what people would have witnessed. If you ask some people, maybe women, I look very good in my spandex. It depends on the person.
When you reflect on where we are now in cycling, what would you do to transform cycling?
Cycling has a unique negative factor, which is road safety. So I've lost friends. I myself have been hit by a car. So those tragedies come from time to time. And it's one where the sport of cycling was around before there were all the cars on the road. So bicycles and donkey carts kind of originated around the same time before all of the carts. So it's like any ecosystem story where you have loss of habitat taking place. So that would be one factor in terms of trying to make things more accessible as far as safety is concerned, which means when you take into consideration logistics, our focus on events will have to change, limited to shorter events, because our riders that have to go out and ride 160 kilometers, 140 kilometers, you can't really do that in a controlled environment. So the Sunday morning program does lend some safety on a particular day for things like that. It's limited. The other thing I would like to do is more all-encompassing, not just for the sport of cycling. We haven't done a very good job in cultivating a fan base, which is, a derivative of the word fanatic. Because I describe the Trinidad and Tobago audience, I've coined this phrase as fashionably unimpressed by most things, based on the reaction that we have, or lack thereof. So whenever I perform now, what the music has taught me is, whenever I go anywhere to play, I can pick out who the foreigners are in the audience just by body language and how they, you go to a concert and I was pointing to someone at a show at Queen. There were 2 Venezuelans sitting a couple seats away. For every song, they're pulling out the phone and Trinidadians don't do that, right? I call this a country with a red sun, right? And why I say that, for people that know the Superman mythology. Superman gets his power from the yellow sun, but in certain comics where people were able to simulate the red sun of Krypton, he lost his power and he became just like everybody else. So it doesn't matter who you are, what you've achieved or whatever it is. You're in Trinidad, you had a lineup for doubles like everybody else. There's no skipping in line for you. It don't matter who you are. One day I was on Tragarete Road for Carnival Tuesday, turning around Mick Jagger with a friend of mine, Tony Smart. She introduced him to me. We were chatting and I was asking him how he was enjoying his time and so on. But while I was chatting with him, I was observing people walking past him, recognizing who he was, and just like, oh, he's just gone away. There was no It didn't matter, you're right? And you had some people looking at them, you see the look on their face like, what? He's skinny, yeah? You know, that kind of curiosity. Where it may be part of our culture, it does impact an industry. The arts and so on need subscribers. They need people to buy a ticket. And they're so moved from the standpoint, we find ourselves going to things to support somebody because we like them personally, but we're not really in. That's a recurring conversation I've had many times. We refuse to get lost in an experience of music. For some people, it creeps up on them or it catches them by surprise. And when that happens, they respond to it as if somebody saw them without their clothes on. And noticing what moves us, it's very difficult to get people involved or motivated by things that don't include alcohol.
We are alcohol-based society where if you're going to go somewhere, it's not just a show, you have to have alcohol at some point. What would you advise young people who are good at sports or art and creativity to do?
Get into the activity itself for the fact that your brain and your body may be doing something that gets you closer to what your full potential is. Out of that, you're going to have lessons and you're going to have opportunities for resilience. And resilience only comes from having to interpret, encounter, and navigate around failure. Because really, failure is the foundation for success. Because failure comes in the need for repetition. To be good at anything, you have to have obsessive repetition. That's how you separate yourself from everyone else. So when they see me with a guitar, like I was on TV last night, I went to the gym this morning and said, I saw that interview last night. You really just only learned to play the guitar in COVID. And there's that curiosity, right? So that name recognition is an activator. So I'm fortunate. I see this very unimpressed audience as a really, really good training ground. You know, as the equivalent of having to go and ride maracas when my pet event is on a flat track. You need that strength training. You need those. You need that ability to. How do you get to engage with somebody that is not coming with an open mind to be able to have that rapport with you at a restaurant setting? And you get them to smile, tap their feet, relish the challenge. You get a no, try to find a way to improve to get a yes and strategize around that. Most people are moved by emotion. How do you move someone in terms of motivating them to come on board? It's a lot of work, but the alternative is stagnation, which is regression.
As we come to an end, how can you reconcile sports and arts working together to improve our country?
I think it would play a very important role as far as personal development and getting people to feel better about themselves, developing any skill that is productive. I'll tell you with me, you've seen some of my work in the background, and some people in your audience may be seeing my work for the first time. And they're like, he really painted that? I go somewhere and people see me with a guitar playing. And they're like, hold on, no. And I get that regularly. And people don't see you the same afterwards. Regardless of how it is, they have to correlate it in their head and reconcile and whatever it is. They don't see you the same after. And having the opportunity to develop those skills to surprise people can open many doors. Developing the bravery to be able to showcase and present, because we may be shy and so on, but the most nerve-wracking thing I did was perform live with a guitar in public. I've done so many other things that was nationally televised, and I did not have that kind of apprehension. So I think it to fuse those things. So art helped me develop cycling. Music, one of my things with music is hopefully that gives me a platform to help push another period through of my sport and other sports, getting that sort of entertainment factor that will bring people to a venue. It's about experimenting to bring that level of development, value, inspiration. People come up to me afterwards and say something on a one-on-one basis, even though their facial expression did not show it. It's like, well, I can't believe on your voice and that song, and they repeat some words. I have students, I've been a motivational speaker going to schools in my 20s and adults walk up to me and repeat something that I said 20 years ago at a school. And when I asked them what they do now, I found myself in situations where people guiding me through a situation or helping me out of a situation revealed to me, well, I was glad to help you because you came to my school such and such a time as, and I'm blown away by it. People remembering they have the opportunity to share and impart knowledge, which is a major I don't want to call it a commodity. I want to call it a gift. You never know where that is going to help someone else in a positive way, and that may benefit yourself, your children, your grandchildren, because being positive and sharing positive is the counter to everyone doing negative. People that do negative and create bad news work really hard at it. To go out there and do the gestures that create the opportunity or the reason for a smile. All those things, that's our responsibility. Good morning, good evening. How are you doing today? Those simple things. You may be asking that person that question, and that may be the only time for the day or the week someone asks that person how they're doing. You're showing that, hey, I recognize that you exist.
What is the message you want us to take away from this conversation?
You're never too old to learn something new. Always do something that scares the living daylights out of you. That is positive.
You're never too old to do something new. Until
Correct.
next time while running, goodbye.
Thank you.